The following program contains explicit calls for clear thinking. If you suffer from emotionalism, Randall may not be right for you. Check with your romance novelist.
Well, I know that babies are dying, torn from out their mother's womb. And I know that the media is lying, pouring garbage into every living room. But let me sleep, let me sleep. I don't want my heart to break and I don't want my eyes to weep. Well, I know America is dying, but let me sleep, let me sleep.
Standing for truth in the four corners of America. Fighting for justice on the frontiers of the culture wars. And turning resistance into an art form. Randall Terry.
Hi, friends. Listen to me. I have a strange feeling that Obama is the Antichrist, all right? That we are absolutely at the end of the world and that the rapture could happen any second. Any second. Don't you think so, Tom? Tom? No! No! Tom! He was standing in these shoes when I started the shot. Maybe it's happening right now and I missed it. Tom! Granny, Professor, someone! Did I miss the rapture?
It's time now for Down Home with Granny Jihad.
A lot of grappa. Oh, boys and girls, this one is good. Muhammad said, a single endeavor of fighting in Allah's cause is better than the world and whatever is in it. Just think of what Osama bin Laden is enjoying.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to today's program. In Catholic prayers or ideology, there's a phrase about Joseph, the foster father of Jesus, Saint Joseph in the Catholic world. And he is called, get this, the terror of demons. The terror of demons. Why would Joseph be called the terror of demons? If you are a regular viewer of this show, you know that we're in the middle of a series where we are looking at why America is dying. America is dying. The religious right, arguably the largest voting bloc in the nation, has failed. We have failed to stop child killing, to stop the homosexual marriage juggernaut. We have failed to stop the Marxist agenda that forces us to surrender our wealth for other people's goods. We have failed with government schools and what is being taught there to children, the birth control that's being given to them. If you look at the religious right, it is one tragic failure after another, and there's no end in sight, all right? So if anyone sends you a fundraising letter saying we're winning, throw it in the garbage, tell them to take you off their mailing list because they're lying. It's just fundraising hoopla, all right? You don't have to be a prophet to see that America is in deep trouble and that we are dying. Why are we dying? Well, one of the reasons we're dying is the love of reputation, our refusal to sacrifice. Joseph is called the terror of demons. Why? Well, he was willing to take a pregnant young woman to be his wife and to suffer the scorn and the ridicule that either she was pregnant with his child out of wedlock or someone else's child out of wedlock. But he chose obedience to God more than the love of his own reputation. He's called the terror of demons because he obeyed immediately. If you look at the times where an angel spoke to him or God spoke to him in a dream, however you want to phrase it, he obeyed instantly. He got up, took her as his wife. God warned that Christ was in danger from the Herodian dynasty. Joseph got up and fled. Immediately. Instant obedience. Joseph is a terror to demons because he was willing to sacrifice. He was willing to endure unthinkable hardship to do the right thing. He valued doing what was right. He valued his wife. He valued the Christ child more than he valued his own comfort. That, my friend, terrorizes demons. If you want to be a threat to the kingdom of darkness, if you want to be a threat to hell itself, follow the example of Joseph. Don't value your own reputation. Obey quickly. Be willing to sacrifice and to endure horrible hardship. It is my unshakable belief that one of the reasons that we have lost this country is because the leaders of the Christian community from all denominations, most of the leaders, I should say, I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, but most of the leaders of various denominations, most of the leaders of various ministries, and most of those who own and operate Christian media, all right, communications, Christian printing, and most of us, the sheep. We have lost the country because we value our comfort and our reputation more than we value righteousness and justice. They said of the apostles, "These men who have turned the world upside down have come here also." When Paul came to a city, he was not greeted with the keys to the city. He was greeted with a beating and the keys to the jail. Only he didn't get to keep the keys to the jail. I'm going to talk about that when we come back. What are you and I willing to pay on a very personal level to see this country restored to righteousness? Because until we're ready to ante up, all right, until we're ready to pay the price of the journey, we're going to continue to watch this nation perish before our eyes. My wife and I, for 5 years, have been grinding our own wheat and baking our own bread from scratch. Within 2 hours, you can have fresh wheat in your hand and then piping hot bread come out of the oven. The most nutritious and delicious bread you will ever have. And we do it for under $1 a loaf. Call Paula's Bread and find out about this grain mill and the mixer and how it can save you money and change your life. How would you like to be able to reach hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of potential customers with your product or your company or your web-based business? Well, you can do that right here on this show. Every single day, we get phone calls or letters or orders online from states all over the country where people are watching this television show. Right now, we are seen in 45 cities at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time every night, and then a rerun again at 12:30 midnight. You can reach them using this show at advertising rates that are so inexpensive, it would blow your mind. So, if you're interested, contact us at the phone number that you see on the screen or the email address, and we can talk about how you can grow your business and help support this show. Hi friend, I'm Randall Terry. George Washington said, "It is impossible to rightly govern a nation without God and the Bible." Welcome back, friend. In order for us to overcome the works of darkness, by the way, the Bible says, "For this reason was the Son of God manifested, that he might destroy the works of the devil." All right? For this reason was the Son of God manifested, that he might destroy the works of the devil. And what was Christ's first and greatest weapon to conquer the kingdom of darkness? His death on the cross, right? Through death, he defeated death. All right? Keep that in mind. If we are going to defeat the kingdom of darkness in time and in space, like the abolitionists defeated slavery here in America, okay? That was a victory for the good guys, a defeat for the bad guys. A victory for the kingdom of righteousness, end slavery. A defeat for the kingdom of darkness, lose slavery. If we're going to defeat evil deeds, there has to be conflict, right? There's a clash. It's not simply, we write a letter, we say a little prayer. There is real people involved in some level of real sacrifice. Those sacrifices must include the loss of reputation and the hardship to our physical body, drain on our time. These men who've turned the world upside down have come here also. They were derided. They were mocked. They were ridiculed. Now, Jesus said, blessed are you when all men hate you, revile you, those are words, speak all manner of evil against you falsely, words again, false accusation, separate you from their company, don't invite them to the party. It's a personal cost. He said, blessed are you when it happens to you for righteousness' sake. Some translations say for the sake of justice. In other words, you and I are fighting for what is right. We're fighting with justice, and people begin to speak evil of us. They lie about us. They cast aspersions on our character. Oh, he thinks he's better than the rest of us. He's always telling everyone what to do. These men who've turned the world upside down have come here also. If you've got thin skin, or if you're trying to protect your reputation, then you'll shrink back from that controversy and that conflict. And then you can't win. If you don't fight, you can't win. You don't win a battle from the sideline watching. But if you're going to be in the battle, you're going to have people who revile you. How many insults are you willing to endure? How much bad press? Think about it. Jesus was lied about. Jesus was derided. The apostles were mocked, vilified, falsely accused. If we're going to follow in the footsteps of Christ and the early apostles, and if we're going to be made in the image of Christ, a devil's works destroyer, we're going to have to endure what they endured. Jesus said, know this, if the world hates you, it hated me first. Jesus said, know this, the servant is not above his master. If they have called the master of the house, Jesus, Beelzebub, Lord of the Flies, he said, they're going to treat you the same way. Don't expect this life to be filled with ease. Christ said, if you want to be my disciple, take up your cross and die to yourself and follow me. He said, he who seeks to save his life will lose it. He who loses his life for my sake will find it. One of the reasons we have lost this country is because of our love of reputation and our love of comfort. We don't want to have people call us lunatics or extremists. We don't want to be mocked. We don't want bad press. We want to fit in. We want to get along. And so we have to surrender, because you can't have all that if you're going to have conflict. We've lost because we value our comfort. I'm busy. I'm on my way to church, like the priest and the Levite passing the man dying in the ditch. Maybe they were on their way to a holy service, and it was their duty to be there, and they had a schedule to keep. Well, they didn't love their neighbor. They were willing to let the man die, and they did not make God happy. So if we are going to restore this culture, there's going to be a price to be paid. It's going to be the loss of our reputation. It's going to be bad press. It's going to be discomfort. It's going to be picking up our cross and dying to ourselves. But if a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, Jesus said, it bears much fruit. If you want to be a fruitful Christian, you want to be a devil's works destroyer like Jesus, pay the price, and then you can bear the fruit. When we come back, we'll talk about eschatologicus vomitus. What's that, Randall? Well, stay tuned. It's called a tease, a rejoin. You'll see. Do you want to have knowledge, wisdom, discernment? If so, you have to read good books on theology, history, books that look at the lives of great men and women. So to help you to become a more effective Christian, a better witness for truth, somebody who can engage in productive conversation that exhorts and edifies those that you speak with, we're going to do something crazy. We're offering you these 7 books for a gift of any size. You just pay for the shipping and handling, and then give whatever gift that you can, and we will send them to you. But just to make it a little bit more crazy, I will send you a second copy of my 3 books, autographed. You can give them as a gift to your pastor or to a family member and help extend truth and justice in the world. This is while supplies last. Welcome back to the program, friend. Eschatologicus vomitus. That means end times vomit, all right? And there's been a lot of it spewed over the years. Now, in these next 2 segments, I'm going to pinpoint one of the greatest single factors why much of the evangelical world in America has become anemic and almost useless in the fight for righteousness and justice in the public square. You want to know why the child killers and the militant homosexuals and so many evildoers have just overwhelmed us? Good part of it is tied to end times madness. Now, if you'll stay with me through these 2 segments, I know that you're going to see that what I'm saying is true. I know you will, especially those of you who have a few years under your belt. Those of you who are young, you've been spared a lot, but I want to spare you of a lot more. The Millerites came to us in the 1850s. They ended up becoming the Seventh-day Adventists. Their claim to fame was that on 10 separate occasions, they picked dates in which Jesus would return. All right? Needless to say, he didn't come back. People were selling their homes. At one point, they gathered up on a hill. There was a lot of comedy, really comedy related to it. Now, is Jesus coming again? You bet. He will come again in glory to judge the living and the dead, and his kingdom will have no end. The voice, the archangel, the trumpet of God, okay? He's coming back. When will he come back, Randall? How do I know? Jesus said, it is not for you to know times and seasons which the Father has put in his own hand. And yet, well-meaning souls continue to pick dates, continue to pick seasons. For example, I was a Christian and remember hearing a man who I loved, a great Bible teacher, say there was no use going to the Moscow Olympics in 1980 to preach the gospel because we'd have been raptured by then. Going back to 1980. I remember a book, 88 Reasons Why the Rapture Will Be in 1988. Some of you remember that book. Didn't come. A guy named Harold Camping wrote a book, 1994. Didn't happen. When the year 2000 hit, there were probably 50 titles, 50 different books that were written explaining why it was a good chance that Jesus would come in the year 2000. Harold Camping made press again recently, saying that Jesus would come, I think it was 2012 this time. They're all wrong. Jesus will come again, but you know what? What if he doesn't come for 100 years? What if he doesn't come for 2,000 years? He said, occupy till I come. Occupy is a military term. Be busy. Occupy enemy territory. Be busy about the master's work. He did not say, be preoccupied with my coming. Stop and think. I was in prison. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a break, and I'm going to tell you a tragic story about a couple of letters that I got when I was serving time in a state prison in Georgia, literally on a chain gang. You'll either love it or hate it. You'll either laugh or cry. But it's true. True story. Don't go away. Do you want to get America out of the hands of wicked and unjust men and women who are destroying the republic before our eyes, and put leadership back into the hands of righteous men and women so that we don't die as a nation? Well, you're talking about social revolution, and there are rules in social revolution. We can look at the victorious social revolutions of the past, such as the end of slavery, the end of child labor, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, and so much more, and learn from their victories. Look at their actions, their images, their rhetoric, their sacrifices, and their final fruit. We will send you this series that originally cost $129, 7 books for students, 1 teacher's guide, if you'll give a gift of any size and just pay for shipping and handling. Take advantage of it today. Welcome back, friend. Are we in the last days? Yeah. We've been in the last days since the day of Pentecost. Hear me out. Read your Bible. Go to Acts chapter 2. And when the Spirit of God was poured out and they began to speak in tongues, Peter stood up and said, these men are not drunk, but as the prophet Joel said, in the last days, I will pour out my Spirit on all flesh, and your sons and daughters will prophesy. Remember the passage? Go and look at it yourself. We have been in the last days since the day of Pentecost. And some of the apostles, it's clear, thought that Jesus was going to return in the first century. All right? Clearly he didn't. And clearly he hasn't come for nearly 2,000 years. And it could be another 2,000 years. I was in jail. I was in prison. Serving time for peacefully sitting in front of an abortion mill and praying. That's it. But the judge hammered me. If I'd have been selling drugs, I would have gotten a light sentence, slap on the wrist. Anyway, I got 2 separate letters from people who said, Randall, I rejoice that babies are being killed because it is a sign of the times. One of them actually created a little theological argument. Said, just before Moses came, they were killing babies, drowning them in the river. Just before Christ came, or just as he came, Herod killed the babies in Bethlehem. And it must mean that while they're killing all these babies, Jesus is going to come again. That was a lie from hell, okay? It was a satanic deception in this person's soul. But it so perverted their mind that rather than fight to end the brutal murder of babies, they rejoiced that babies were being killed because they thought it was a sign of the times and that Christ was coming again. Now, I want to ask you a very simple question. Have you fallen prey to this deceitful logic? Is this poison in your heart? In other words, when you see things getting really bad, do you think, wow, it's a sign of the times, Jesus must be coming? They're starting to persecute Christians here in America. Must mean the Lord's going to return. Well, they persecuted Christians in Nazi Germany. They killed Christians in communist Russia. They are persecuting and killing Christians in communist China. They've lived and died under horrific, barbaric treatment. Christians have been dying for centuries in Islamic countries. I mean, think of the height of arrogance for us to say to them, Jesus must be coming because we Christians in America are being mocked a little bit on sitcoms at night. This preoccupation, this date setting, this trying to figure out who's the Antichrist, Mikhail Gorbachev, Henry Kissinger, Bill Clinton. There are some people now saying Obama. All of this preoccupation is a toxin that has deceived, deluded, distracted us. We need to get back to what it means to be Christians who occupy till the Lord comes, not preoccupied with his coming. So here's my word of encouragement to you. When will Jesus come? How do I know? How do you know? Set it aside. Be ready so that if he comes, you're ready to go. But in the meantime, fight for your children. Fight for the laws of God. Fight for righteousness and justice like we're going to be here for 200 years. So we don't deliver some kind of hellhole to our children to live in. And then, if you live and die and your kids live and die, when you go and face God, he'll look at you and say, well done, good and faithful servant. God bless you.